Good morning, dear students. Today we will start the part 8 of our chapter 6, that is life processes, and today we will discuss the concept or the topic which is known as human respiratory system. Okay, in part 8 we will see the detailed structure of human respiratory system and what are the function of various organs of respiratory systems. Now see, this is the diagram. As you can see on the board, this is the diagram for human respiratory system. One by one I will explain each and every part with their function. So listen carefully and pay attention. See, the human respiratory system starts with the external layers. Okay, human respiratory system starts with external layers. You can see here there are two external layers. Okay, as you can see there are two external layers. See, the human respiratory system have the first part, that is external layers. We can see the two external layers are there. Okay, so the first part of human respiratory system is known as external layers. Then it is followed by the pathway which is known as the nasal chamber. Okay, external layers follows the path. Then it enters into the nasal chamber. Then the nasal chamber finally ends at the two nostrils which are known as internal nostrils. These two nostrils are known as internal nostrils. Now internal nostrils we have already seen in the digestive system. We have already seen the uvula closes the internal nostrils during swallowing. Okay, I have asked you questions. Okay, what closes the internal layers? Okay, and who closes the internal layers during swallowing of food? Uvula, that is hanging structure in our mouth. Okay, in our mouth the hanging structure which is known as uvula, which closes the internal nostrils. Now after the mouth there is a common pathway that is known as pharynx. Okay, after the mouth, okay, there is a common pathway for the food and wind. We have seen in detail what is pharynx. Pharynx is a common pathway for both food and wind. Okay, then after the pharynx, the small structure which is common for both trachea and esophagus. The common structure for both trachea and esophagus is known as epiglottis. As we have already discussed, epiglottis closes the trachea during swallowing of food and it is closes the esophagus during the inhalation of air. That means epiglottis is a common structure for both trachea and food pipe, that is esophagus. Now next is larynx. Larynx is also known as the sound box. Larynx is also known as sound box. Okay, it is also known as sound box. Clear? Then after the larynx you can see the C-shaped cartilaginous rings are present. Okay, suppose this is trachea, C-shaped cartilaginous rings are present in the trachea. We will discuss the function of C-shaped cartilaginous rings in detail. Then, after C-shaped cartilaginous rings in trachea, the trachea opens into the two lungs. The trachea is divided into two branches that are open into the two lungs which are known as bronchus. Initially, the branch from where? Okay, the trachea is divided into two initial branches which are known as bronchus, and after the bronchus is divided into secondary or tertiary branches and they are known as bronchioles. See, bronchus is divided into secondary and tertiary branches which are known as bronchioles. See, this is singular. Okay, one branch bronchus. Okay, and it is divided into secondary tertiary branches which are known as bronchioles. This is plural name. Okay, and the terminal end of bronchioles, that means the last end of bronchioles, there are some bag-like or we can see balloon-like structure which are known as alveoli. Okay, which are known as alveoli. See, this balloon-like structure or we can see a bag-like structure are known as alveoli. And most important point, alveoli are the structural and functional unit of lungs. Alveoli are the structural and functional unit of lungs. Clear? So these are the bag-like structure. Now you can see the left lungs see the right lungs and left lungs. Now right lungs is more in diameter as compared to the left lungs. Right lungs is more in, okay, so this is right lung, this is right lung, and this is left lung. Okay. See, right lung is more in diameter as compared to the left lung. You can see in the diagram, you can see or you can observe the difference. See, right lung is more in diameter as compared to the left lung, and the weight of right lung is 700 grams and the weight of left lung is 600 grams. There you can see the differences, 700 grams and 600 grams. And for your general knowledge, there are 3 lobes in right lungs and 2 lobes in left lung. This question will not be asked in the NCERT or in the board. How many lobes are there in right lungs and left lungs and what is the weight? But for your general knowledge, you should understand it better. Why right lung is a heavy than left lung, or you can observe that the right lung is more in diameter as compared to left lung. This is for your general knowledge. And see, you can see a small notch you can observe here, small slant structure or small notch like structure you can observe. See, this is the small notch you can observe. Okay, this is lunar shape, semi-lunar shape, or we can say semi-circular shape. Okay, you can see here there is a one notch, and this notch is known as cardiac notch. This notch is known as cardiac notch. Now, the question can be arises that why right lung is more in diameter as compared to left lung? So the answer is, see here heart is present. Okay, here heart is present. Okay, as we can see here heart is present. Okay, so due to the presence of heart, see there is a small notch. Therefore, it is known as cardiac notch. As we know that any words which is related to heart is known as cardiac. Okay, the hospital which in where the treatment of heart is there, so that hospital name is cardiac center. Okay, where the treatment of the heart, that hospital is known as cardiac center. So here due to the heart there is a small notch on the left lung. Okay, small notch on the left lung. Therefore, this notch is known as cardiac notch. Okay, and finally you can observe a dome-shaped structure, which is known as diaphragm. Okay, finally the dome-shaped structure which is below the lungs. Okay, and it is like that dome-shaped structure. Okay, this way. Okay, dome-shaped structure which is known as diaphragm. Okay, see, this is the basic structure of human respiratory system. Now we will discuss each and every part in detail. We will see each and every part of human respiratory system in detail. First, I want you to observe this diagram for 1 minute. Observe it carefully. Now we will discuss each and every part in detail. Observe it carefully. Okay, or if you want, you can stop the video or pause the video and you can draw the diagram, so you will understand it better. Okay, you can observe. I am giving you 1 minute. See, now we are discussing each and every part in detail. Okay, you can observe here. We will discuss each and every part in detail. The first part is known as external layers. Okay, external layers. See, this is the first part of human respiratory system. There are 2 external layers. Okay. First part of human respiratory system, 2 layers which are known as external layers. Okay, what is the function? We can say that the air enters through the external layers. Okay, these are two in number. What we can write? External layer is the first point or first part of human respiratory system. The air enters through the two external layers. These are two in number, and most important point, these two external layers are separated by a septum which is known as nasal septum. Okay, which is known as nasal septum. These two external layers are separated by one wall. Okay, you can see the division that is known as the nasal septum. Okay, here there will be one septum. Here in between two layers there will be one septum which is known as nasal septum. Which is known as nasal septum. Okay, see. This is the first part of human respiratory system. Air enters through the external layers. External layers are two in number, and the external layers are separated by a septum which is known as nasal septum. Then the air follows after the external layers. The air follows one path, and air enters into the cavity which is known as nasal cavity. After the external layer, the air enters into the cavity which is known as nasal cavity. Okay. Then there are two structures which are present in the nasal cavity. Okay, there are two things which are present in the nasal cavity. What you can write? Nasal cavity is the second part of the human respiratory system. Okay, the air follows the pathway after external layers, and air enter into the cavity which is known as nasal cavity. Okay, there are some structures present in the nasal chamber. Or nasal, you can write nasal chamber. There are two structures present. First is nasal hairs, and second is mucus. Okay, nasal hair and mucus. Okay, why there are nasal hairs and mucus present in the nasal chamber? Okay, in nasal cavity, why extra nasal hairs and mucus are present? So the reason is when we inhale the air, that air may contain germs, bacteria, small dust particles. Okay, so to trap the germs or bacteria, to trap the germs or the dust particles, there are nasal hairs and mucus present in the nasal cavity. And we know that when we inhale the air will get cool in the nasal chamber, then it will be enters into the lungs. So to cool the air, okay, to cool the air, the mucus are present in the nasal chamber. Mucus is a sticky substance which is present liquid or semi-liquid. It is a sticky substance which is present in the nasal cavity which is known as mucus. And what is the function of nasal hair and mucus? To trap the germs and dust particles of the air and to cool the air, that cooled air is entered into the lungs. Okay. Now the third part is internal layers. You can see there are two nostrils which are next to the nasal chamber are known as internal nostrils. Okay. The third part is internal nostrils. Third part is internal nostrils. Or we can write internal layers also. So the next part from the nasal chamber, there are two nostrils which are known as internal nostrils. Okay. Then after the internal nostrils, then the next structure would be pharynx. As we have discussed in the human digestive system, as we have discussed that pharynx is a common pathway. Pharynx is a common path. Pharynx is a common path for both food and wind. Okay, pharynx is a common pathway for both food and wind. Pharynx is a common pathway for both food and wind. Okay, then after pharynx, the small structure which is common for both esophagus and trachea, that is known as epiglottis. After the pharynx, the next structure is epiglottis, and epiglottis is common for both food pipe and wind pipe. See, this is wind pipe, and this pipe will continue, and that pipe is known as esophagus. That food pipe is known as esophagus, that we have already discussed in the human digestive system. Okay. Now, after the pharynx is a common part for both food and wind. Then after pharynx, the next very important part of human respiratory system, which is the structure present, which is known as larynx. See, larynx is also known as the sound box. Okay, larynx is also known as sound box. Larynx is also known as sound box. See, in the larynx is also known as sound box, and in the larynx, when there is a vibration, then the voice will come out. But most important point is that voice is converted into speech only by the tongue. If tongue is not present, then only voice will come out from the larynx. Okay, vibration. From larynx vibration only voice will come, but that voice is converted into speech by the tongue. Okay, if tongue is not present, only voice will come. Clear? So larynx is also known as the sound box. Okay, it is the structure where the vibration occurs. When the airs come out, the vibration occurs in the larynx, so the sound will generate. Okay, so therefore it is known as sound box. Larynx is also known as sound box. Okay, then there is one structure which is present in the larynx, which is known as vocal cord. Okay, the vocal cord is present. That vocal cord is also known as Adam's apple. That vocal cord is also known as Adam's apple. Okay, and vocal cord is also known as Adam's apple. And the most important point is the vocal cord is more developed in male as compared to female. Vocal cord is more developed in male as compared to female. Okay, therefore the voice of male is little bit harsher than the female. Female have the soft voice and the males have little bit hard voice as compared to females, because of the development of vocal cord. Vocal cord is more developed. Okay, we can see the vocal cord here. Okay, it is little structure which is known as Adam's apple. Then after the vocal cord, okay, after the larynx, there is an air pipe present which is known as trachea. Okay, air pipe which is known as trachea. Air pipe is known as the sixth structure or sixth part is known as trachea. Okay, this is also known as windpipe or air pipe. Now in trachea, we can see there are small structures. Okay, suppose this is trachea and small C-shaped cartilaginous rings are present. See, these are the C-shaped cartilaginous rings are present. Now the question can be generated, why the cartilaginous rings are present in trachea? Okay, and why the cartilaginous rings are there? Why many cartilaginous rings are there in trachea? The answer is the cartilaginous rings are hook-like structure. Okay, this way they are hook-like structure which hold the trachea. Okay, which holds the trachea. Okay, if cartilaginous C-shaped structures are absent, then the trachea may collapse. Okay, and in the absence of air, okay, in the absence of air, when we stop breathing, okay, when we stop breathing, in the absence of air, the trachea, that is windpipe, can collapse. So to prevent the collapse of trachea, there are C-shaped cartilaginous rings are present. Okay, you can assume these C-shaped cartilaginous rings are like spring. Okay, when we stop breathing, our trachea will contract. Okay, and when we start breathing, then that C-shaped cartilaginous rings again help to regain the trachea its own shape. Okay, regain its shape with the help of trachea will regain its shape with the help of C-shaped cartilaginous rings. What happens when C-shaped cartilaginous rings are absent? The trachea may collapse. Okay, the trachea may collapse. So to prevent the collapse of trachea, there are some C-shaped cartilaginous rings are present. Okay, which prevent the collapse of trachea. Okay, then trachea is next. After the trachea, the next structure is The trachea is divided into two parts. The trachea is divided into two branches. These are known as primary branches, and the primary branches are known as bronchus. Okay. Then bronchus, after entering into the lungs, they are divided into many sub branches which are known as bronchioles. Bronchia is divided, or bronchus is divided into many sub branches which are known as bronchioles. Now my question is, why bronchus is divided into many branches? Why bronchus are divided? Why bronchus is divided into many branches? Okay, it could be a straight pipe-like structure and connected to the alveoli. Okay, this is the possibility. Bronchus will be straight way connected to the alveoli. It could be connected to the straight to the alveoli. But why there are sub branches are present? Okay, why there are sub branches of bronchus are present? So the answer is, the air should cover the maximum part of the lungs. Okay, the air should go towards the maximum part of the lungs. That means with the help of branches, with the help of bronchioles, the surface area of lungs increases and more oxygen we can inhale. We can inhale more amount of oxygen with the help of bronchioles. Okay, you can assume if there is a single pipe, pipeline, okay, in our house, if there is a single pipeline, then we have to do all the things with that single pipe. Okay, we fill the drink water with that pipe, we'll have the washing water from that pipe only. So if there are branches of pipe, so it will be very easy for us to use each and every branch of that pipe. Similarly, bronchus is divided into many sub branches which are known as bronchiole, so that air can go to the maximum part of the lungs, or air can go to the maximum part of the lungs. It can be covered by the airs. Okay, when we have the various pipelines in our houses, so we'll have simple way to collect the water from anywhere. But if we have a single pipeline, we have to collect all the water from that single pipeline. Similarly, here the branches are present, so the air can go to the maximum part of the lungs. Okay, after the bronchioles, most important structures are there which are known as alveoli. Okay, see, this balloon shaped structure are there which are known as alveoli. Okay, we will discuss the alveoli in detail. See, the terminal part of bronchioles, will end at the alveoli. Okay, so alveoli would be like this. Okay, this way they are balloon-like structure. Alveoli are the balloon-like structure. Okay, many alveoli are present in the both lungs. Okay, now what is the function of alveoli? So the function of alveoli is, when we inhale the air, the alveoli will be swallowed. Okay, the alveoli will swallow because the air is filled into the alveoli. Now from the alveoli, the air, that is oxygen, is supplied to all the cells of the body through blood vessels. Okay, see, the question can be arise, when we inhale the air finally goes into the lungs and the alveoli part. But alveoli part, how the oxygen is transferred to the each and every cell of the body? So the answer is, the alveoli supply oxygen to the blood vessel, and blood vessel will transport the oxygen to each and every part of the cell. See, we can understand by this way. Suppose this is alveoli and oxygen is filled into the alveoli. Okay, from alveoli the blood vessel will go to the cell, body cell. It will utilize all the oxygen. The body cell, see, oxygen is transferred to the cell, and cell will release the carbon dioxide. Cell will release the carbon dioxide, and this carbon dioxide will again supply to the alveoli. CO2. See, this is way in this way the oxygen is supplied to the body cell. See, now by which process the oxygen is supplied to the body cell? By which process oxygen is supplied to the body cell? See, the pressure of oxygen is more in alveoli. So we have learned one concept that is known as diffusion. We have learned a concept in class 9 that is known as diffusion. Diffusion. So here the concentration of oxygen more as compared to blood vessel. This is blood vessel. Okay. So oxygen, when we inhale the air, the concentration of oxygen is more in alveoli as compared to the blood vessel. So what is the function of, what is the meaning of diffusion? Diffusion means air from its higher pressure is supplied to the lower pressure. Air transfer from its higher pressure to lower pressure is known as diffusion. Air transfer from its higher pressure to lower pressure is known as diffusion. Here the pressure of oxygen is more, so this oxygen will be supplied to the blood vessel by the process of diffusion. Oxygen will diffuse into the blood vessel and oxygen is supplied to the body cell. Body cell will utilize the oxygen and releases carbon dioxide by the process of respiration. Okay, oxygen is utilized by the cell and it will release the carbon dioxide, which is waste product, and the carbon dioxide will be transferred to the alveoli, and the alveoli transfer that carbon dioxide to external layers, means all the way. Alveoli will transfer the carbon dioxide in a backward direction, and from the internal nostrils it will come out and it will release us into the environment. This way oxygen is supplied to all part of the body, all cells of the body. Cell will releases carbon dioxide and it is supplied to the alveoli, and from the alveoli in a backward flow the carbon dioxide will be releases out to the environment by the process of diffusion. And the final structure, which is dome shaped structure, which is known as diaphragm. See, diaphragm is initially like this. When we inhale the air, the pressure will be applied on the diaphragm. Diaphragm will be like this. Okay. When the air pressure is on the diaphragm will be flattened. Okay. The diaphragm will be flattened. And when we exhale the air, the diaphragm will regain its original shape. Diaphragm initially is like this. When we inhale the air, the diaphragm will be flattened. Okay. And when we exhale the air, diaphragm will regain its original shape. So I hope you have understood the human respiratory system in detail. I have tried to explain you each and every part in detail. Okay. I hope you have understood human respiratory system. So this is the human respiratory system. Now we have finished with the human respiratory system. Next part, that is part 9, will continue the components of blood. The homework for you to find out how many components of blood are present. Okay, blood contains how many components. Clear? So this was all for today's lecture. Thank you very much.